Imagine being born with a royal title but never using it. Imagine growing up like any other kid, going to local schools, working a summer job at a garden center, and joining the Girl Scouts. Now imagine that one day, the crown might need you, and you have to decide if you want to step into the spotlight. This is a story about Lady Louise Windsor, a princess by birth but not by choice. Lady Louise has technically been a princess since the day she was born, and the fact that nobody calls her one is actually a choice her parents made before she even existed. That is kind of wild when you think about it. Imagine having a legal right to something your whole life and just never using it. That is her reality. And now with King Charles's monarchy running on a skeleton crew, the question is not really whether she can use the title anymore. It is whether she will. To understand why this is even a conversation, we have to go back to 1917. World War I was happening. Royal families across Europe were collapsing. King George V, Queen Elizabeth's grandfather, watched his cousins lose their thrones. The Russian Tsar, who was literally his cousin, got overthrown. The German Kaiser was struggling. So George V decided he needed to slim things down and make the monarchy look less bloated and vulnerable. He issued what is called letters patent, which are basically royal rules that function as law. They spell out exactly who gets to be called prince or princess and who gets the HRH, his or her Royal Highness designation. The rule is pretty straightforward. The monarch's children get it automatically. The monarch's grandchildren get it too, but only through the male line. So if you are the child of the king's son, you are a prince or princess. If you are the child of the king's daughter, you are not. It is an old-fashioned rule that clearly favors men, and it has been controversial forever, but nobody has ever changed it. Now here is where Lady Louise Windsor enters the picture. She was born on November 8, 2003. Her father is Prince Edward, who is Queen Elizabeth II's youngest son. Under the 1917 letters patent, that means Louise was a princess the moment she was born, not when someone decided to give her the title, not when the king grants it. Now, automatically from birth, the law entitled her to it without anyone lifting a finger. So obviously the next question is, well then why is not she called Princess Louise? And this is where her parents come in. When Prince Edward married Sophie Rhys-Jones in June of 1999, Buckingham Palace put out an announcement that any children they had would be styled as the children of an earl, not as princes or princesses. That is unusual. Edward did not even get a dukedom on his wedding day, which is pretty standard for a monarch's son. Instead, he became the Earl of Wessex, and the palace made it clear that his future kids would be called Lady or Viscount, not Prince or Princess. The timing of all this matters a lot. Edward and Sophie got married less than 2 years after Princess Diana died, and when Diana lost her HRH title after her divorce from Prince Charles, the public reaction was enormous. Royal titles were a sensitive, emotionally charged topic at that moment. So deciding not to use them for the new generation was seen as the safest, most modern choice. It was a way to avoid controversy. But here is the detail that a lot of people miss. A Buckingham Palace announcement is not the same thing as a formal letters patent. The announcement said the children would be styled as the children of an earl, but it did not legally strip them of their right to be called prince or princess. That right, the one King George V created in 1917, was never revoked. It just sat there unused. And this is why Sophie, who is now the Duchess of Edinburgh, was able to say something very specific in a 2020 interview with the Sunday Times. She confirmed that both Louise and her younger brother James do have their HRH titles. They were not taken away. The family simply chose not to use them. Sophie also said that when Louise turned 18, she could decide for herself whether to claim the title of princess. Louise turned 18 in November of 2021. She did not make any changes, but the option never went away. It is still sitting there waiting. Now, to understand why Louise might not have jumped at the chance to become a princess the second she turned 18, you have to look at how she was raised. Because Edward and Sophie did not just decide their kids would not use titles. They built an entire childhood around the idea that these kids would need to function in the real world. In that same 2020 Sunday Times interview, Sophie explained their thinking pretty clearly. She said they wanted their children to understand that they would most likely need to work for a living. That is a significant thing for a member of the royal family to say out loud. It is an acknowledgement that for anyone not in the direct line of succession, the old model of automatic titles and ceremonial careers is not really the plan anymore. They lived at Bagshot Park in Surrey, which is a royal residence, but it is not Kensington Palace or Buckingham Palace. It is not where the main action happens. Louise went to local schools and did not have a visible security detail that would separate her from other kids. She did Girl Guides, which is just the British version of Girl Scouts. Totally normal childhood activity. And before university, she worked a summer job at a garden center. That is about as standard issue teenage employment as you can get in the UK. Compare that to her cousins, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. They are Prince Andrew's daughters and they grew up with the full princess treatment. The title, the HRH prefix, being addressed as Your Royal Highness at official events, the security, the recognition. Louise experienced none of that, and according to a lot of people who have encountered her, she is actually better off for it. The descriptions of her tend to use the same words over and over: confident, self-assured, down-to-earth. When she was 7, she was a bridesmaid at Prince William and Catherine Middleton's wedding, and people commented on how poised she was. At 18, she stood vigil by Queen Elizabeth's coffin alongside her brother and cousins, and the quiet dignity she showed went viral for all the right reasons. She was reportedly Prince Philip's favorite grandchild. They bonded over carriage driving, which is a sport Philip helped popularize in Britain. After he died in 2021, she inherited his driving ponies and carriage. She has competed at the Royal Windsor Horse Show multiple times, even placing 3rd in a competition there. That is not a ceremonial hobby. That is a real skill she developed with her grandfather. There's also this interesting detail from her LinkedIn page. She listed her career interests as military, diplomacy, or law, not royal duties, not charitable patronages, actual professions that require training and qualifications. That tells you a lot about how she sees herself and what her parents prepared her for. Everything about her upbringing suggests she was not raised to sit back and wait for a title to define her. She was raised to go earn something. But here is where the situation gets complicated. Because the monarchy she is part of is facing a staffing crisis that her parents probably did not fully anticipate when they made those decisions in 1999. King Charles has a problem. He wanted a slimmed-down monarchy, fewer royals doing public duties, lower costs for taxpayers, a more focused and efficient operation. It was a direct response to years of criticism about the royal family being too large and too expensive. And on paper, that idea makes sense. In practice, it has created a real headache. Let us just look at who is currently doing the work. You have got King Charles and Queen Camilla. You have got the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine. You have got the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, Edward and Sophie. You have got Princess Anne, who is 75 years old and has been widely considered the hardest-working royal for decades. And then technically you have got the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester and the Duke of Kent, who are all in their 80s. That is it. Prince Andrew was stripped of his duties because of his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped back completely. William and Catherine's 3 kids, George, Charlotte, and Louis, are still in school, so the working royal roster is tiny and it is not getting any younger. And things are actually getting worse, not better. King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer. The Princess of Wales has gone through cancer treatment as well. Princess Anne is in her mid-70s. The older royals cannot maintain this pace indefinitely. Royal experts have been pointing out that there are only 4 working royals under 70: William, Catherine, Edward, and Sophie. That is not sustainable for an institution that handles thousands of public engagements, patronages, and official visits every year. A lot of the patronages that were held by the late Queen and Prince Philip still need representatives. Charities and organizations that have historically had royal connections are losing those ties. The monarchy is essentially trying to do the same amount of work with half the staff. This is exactly where Lady Louise Windsor becomes relevant. She is not out there seeking attention, but the situation is kind of calling for her whether she wants it to or not. Royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams has described her as stylish and conscientious, and he said she could be important for Prince William's future reign. His point was that when William becomes king, he's going to need help if the monarchy wants to continue its charitable work at any meaningful scale. Other commentators have called the Edinburgh family the royal family's secret weapon. Hardworking, no scandals, completely loyal to the crown, the monarchy clearly has a role that needs filling, and Louise is one of the few people who could step into it. The bigger question is whether she actually wants to, and this is where what she has actually been doing with her time gets really interesting because it might matter more than any title discussion. In 2024, Lady Louise joined the 74th University Officer Training Corps at the University of St. Andrews. That is an Army Reserve unit for university students, and it involves real military training, handling weapons, leadership exercises, navigation under pressure, tactical field work. This is not a ceremonial role where she puts on a uniform for a photo. She has received basic Army officer training and holds the rank of officer cadet. In November of 2025, she was seen marching in full camouflage at the St. Andrews Regiment's Day Parade, which is a serious remembrance event. Military units marched through the town to lay a wreath at the war memorial. Eyewitnesses said she was completely focused, maintaining professionalism the whole time, never breaking rank. Sources close to the family have told reporters that she genuinely enjoys the military training and is determined to serve her country in some capacity. Now here is the detail that makes this historically significant. If Lady Louise joins the army after she graduates from St. Andrews in the summer of 2026, she would become the first female member of the British royal family to join the military since 1945. The last one was Princess Elizabeth, her own grandmother, who served in the Auxiliary Territorial Service during World War II. Elizabeth learned to drive and maintain military vehicles, and she spoke about that experience with pride for the rest of her life. Louise could be the first royal woman in over 80 years to follow that same path. There are even reports that she might attend the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, which is where Prince William and Prince Harry both trained as officers. That would put her on a track toward a professional military career, not just holding honorary titles like most royals do. This changes the entire conversation about her title. A Princess Louise who shows up to charity events and ribbon cuttings is one thing. A Princess Louise who has actually earned her rank through military service, who has completed tough training and has the discipline of a soldier. That is something the monarchy has not seen in almost a century. That kind of credibility would make the HRH title feel earned rather than just inherited. It would reframe the whole thing. While all this military training is happening, she is also just being a student. Lady Louise studies English literature at the University of St. Andrews, where she started in September of 2022. And unlike the intense media attention that followed Prince William and Catherine Middleton during their university years, Louise has managed to have a much quieter experience. She is now in her 4th year, and by all accounts, she is friendly, approachable, and does not have a visible security team. Beyond her studies and the military training, she is also involved in student theater. She recently performed in a play called Dragon Theater. She has been linked to a fellow student named Felix de Silva Clamp, though neither of them has confirmed anything about their relationship. She is known for being calm and steady, and she has not been involved in any scandals or controversies, which in this family is honestly an accomplishment worth noting. She is on track to graduate in the summer of 2026, and after that, everyone is going to be watching what she does next. Military, royal duties, some other path entirely. The choice is going to be scrutinized because of who she is, even if she would prefer it were not. To understand where Louise might go from here, you really just have to look at her parents. The Edinburgh family has become quietly essential to the monarchy, especially during King Charles's health challenges. Prince Edward and Sophie have taken on more and more public duties, and they have earned a reputation as the monarchy's most reliable couple. No drama, no scandals, just steady work. Louise's future might follow that same model. Quiet service through royal duties or charity work, not splashy headlines or big announcements. But there is a practical question that comes with that path. If she's going to represent the monarchy in any formal capacity, being called Lady Louise Mountbatten Windsor might not carry the same weight as Princess or Her Royal Highness. Those are stronger titles with more authority and recognition. Some royal watchers believe that if Louise takes on a formal role, she will likely receive a title that matches her responsibilities, and it might happen without a big announcement, just a quiet shift. Historian Gareth Russell has pointed out that King Charles is open to adjusting titles and duties as circumstances change. So it is entirely possible that Louise could become a princess whenever she is ready for it, whenever that makes sense for her life and her role. There is family precedent for this too. When Edward eventually got his Duke of Edinburgh title in 2023, it also changed how his children were styled. Titles can evolve, they do not have to be static. What makes Lady Louise Windsor's situation so interesting is not really the title itself. It is what the unused title represents. It is the power of choice, which is something a lot of people born into royal families never actually get. Unlike so many members of this family, Louise has the option to live a relatively normal life without the pressures and scrutiny that come with being a working royal. Her parents made a deliberate decision to protect her from that, and it gave her the space to develop her own interests. The garden center job, the carriage driving, the military training, the English literature degree, those are things she chose. And now, as she gets ready to graduate, she is facing a decision that will define her future in a very real way. She can remain Lady Louise and pursue an independent career, military or otherwise, on her own terms, or she can accept the title that has been waiting for her since birth and step into royal duties. Both choices carry weight. Choosing independence could signal that the monarchy is genuinely evolving into a smaller, more modern institution. Accepting the title could show a deep commitment to the institution at a moment when it really needs reliable people. She might find some middle ground too, graduate from St. Andrews, possibly go to Sandhurst, build her military career, and gradually take on royal responsibilities as they make sense. Her title might shift quietly over time without a formal announcement, just evolving as she does. What is already clear, regardless of what title she uses, is that Louise has earned respect based on her character and her choices, not her birthright. And in a royal family that sometimes struggles with negative headlines, that kind of credibility is genuinely valuable. It is not about the title. It is about what she has done while nobody was watching.